Hi, a warm welcome to all of you. Welcome back to Sky Wanderer, the channel where we share knowledge about personal growth and self-development through amazing books. Have you ever wondered if the life you're living is actually a game? James Carse once said that in this world, there are at least two kinds of games: finite games and infinite games. Most people are deeply immersed in finite games, while only a few choose to play infinite games. But what exactly are finite and infinite games? Today, we'll explore this fascinating topic through the book Finite and Infinite Games. Written by American philosopher and religious scholar James Carse. Why this book matters. This book is not very long, but understanding it isn't easy. Carse uses abstract language and philosophical writing to convey his ideas. It requires deep thinking and analysis to uncover the layers of meaning behind his words. I've read this book several times, and yet, there are still parts one don't fully grasp. The beauty of it, though, is that it leaves me constantly reflecting. I often find myself asking, am I playing a finite game right now? Or an infinite game? Carse doesn't give you a rigid framework or clear-cut answers. Instead, he invites you to think broadly, to challenge your current values and perspective. Ultimately, it's up to you to figure out whether you're living a finite or infinite game, and to decide which one you want to pursue. This is precisely why I want to share this book with you. Even if you only understand a small part of it, maybe a single chapter, or even one sentence, it has the potential to leave a lasting impact on your life. It could inspire a completely new way of approaching life and a deeper understanding of its meaning. Finite games versus infinite games. Finite games. Winning is the goal. A finite game is one where the main objective is to win. In other words, there's a clear endpoint. When you achieve victory, the game is over. Finite games have defined rules, boundaries, and audiences. The winner gains recognition, while everyone else is deemed to have lost. Infinite games. The goal is to keep playing. Infinite games, on the other hand, have no fixed endpoint. The goal isn't to win, it's to keep the game going indefinitely. In these games, progress, continuous learning, and new experiences are what truly matter. Instead of fixating on reaching the finish line, players focus on enjoying every step of the journey. The concept of life is for the experience has become more popular in recent years. Often seen as a way to heal our spirits amid life's many challenges. However, why do we still feel unsatisfied? Why do we keep chasing achievements and milestones? The root of the issue lies in the fact that most of us are still stuck in finite games. There's a disconnect between what we understand and how we live. This inconsistency is the source of much of our pain. We dream of freedom, but we trap ourselves in one finite game after another. We play a game, achieve the goal, and then immediately dive into another game, never realizing that outside of these games lies the possibility of an infinite one. Finite games, where death equals failure. In finite games, death is seen as the ultimate loss. Since death represents the end, players often fear it deeply. People cling to life, desiring immortality through achievements, recognition, and legacy. For example, they may hope their name will be remembered, their achievements will endure, or their wealth will be passed on to their descendants. But as Carse explains, chasing immortality within a finite framework is impossible. Why? because finite games are inherently limited. This creates a paradox. The more we chase immortality in a finite game, the more we realize it's unattainable. The tragedy of finite games. This paradox leads to a tragic outcome. We focus so much on survival that we forget to truly live. What does this mean? It means we're so preoccupied with extending our time, securing money, reputation, and longevity, that we fail to enjoy the time we already have. Another problem is that winning ends the game. Once you achieve victory, the game concludes, and with it, the purpose that drove you. Take, for instance, an Olympic athlete who dedicates their entire life to winning a gold medal. They sacrifice years of effort, time, and energy to achieve their goal. But what happens after they win? Many experience a deep emptiness. Without a new purpose, they feel lost. Finite games. The cycle of achievement and emptiness. For someone playing finite games, life often becomes a series of endless goals. For example, let's say someone sets a goal to earn $1 million in 5 years. They work tirelessly, sacrificing their time and energy, and finally reach their target. The game ends, but instead of feeling satisfied, they experience a sense of emptiness. So, what do? They set a new goal. Perhaps to earn $10 million in the next 10 years. This is the nature of finite games. They require constant victories to maintain purpose. Without new goals, players feel like they've lost their sense of direction. This cycle, of achieving, then feeling empty, and setting another goal, repeats endlessly. It's why many people with wealth, fame, or success often seem unsatisfied. No amount of money or recognition is ever enough. Infinite games. A life without endpoints. In contrast, infinite games don't have an end. They focus on the journey, not the destination. Players of infinite games aren't trying to win. They play for the joy of the process, the growth they experience, and the new possibilities they create. For example, an artist might paint not to gain recognition or wealth but simply to express themselves. A parent might nurture their child not to achieve the perfect family image but to cherish the experience of love and connection. Infinite games allow people to live freely, without the constant pressure to achieve and prove themselves. Are you playing by choice or obligation? Carse highlights that when we're born, we're automatically entered into finite games. For instance, we're born into specific families, societies, and circumstances, all of which come with predefined rules and expectations. From an early age, we're trained to compete. We're told to get good grades, go to prestigious schools, land high-paying jobs, and secure our place in society. In this way, we're often forced into finite games without realizing it. However, as we grow older, we gain the ability to choose. We can decide whether to continue playing finite games or step into the infinite. Finite games. Rules, power, and audiences. Finite games are built on rules, power, and audiences. 1. Rules. Rules in finite games are designed to protect the victories of past winners. These rules often limit creativity and freedom, ensuring the system benefits a select few. 2. Power. Power in finite games is limited to a few individuals, those who win. These players have influence, but their power is restricted by the rules of the game. 3. Audiences. Audiences are essential in finite games. Without people to witness and validate their success, winners would feel their achievements are meaningless. This is why those in power often seek recognition and admiration from others. They need audiences to solidify their status. Infinite games. Strength and freedom. Infinite games, on the other hand, don't rely on power or rules. Instead, they thrive on strength and freedom. Players of infinite games aren't limited by societal rules or expectations. They create their own paths, guided by their inner values and passions. For example, Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, survived the horrors of a concentration camp. Despite being imprisoned, he found freedom within himself, the freedom to choose his attitude and find meaning even in suffering. This kind of internal strength doesn't rely on external validation or recognition. It comes from within. Are you following a script or writing your own story? Most people live their lives following a script, a predetermined storyline created by society. For example, the script might look like this: study hard, get a degree, find a stable job, buy a house, get married, retire. While these steps may bring security, they often lack creativity and individuality. In contrast, infinite players write their own stories. They don't feel confined by societal expectations. Have you ever taken an impromptu trip just because you felt like it? That's an example of living outside the script. Infinite players see life as a blank canvas. They paint it with their own colors, creating something unique and meaningful to them. Art, creativity, and true freedom. Art is one of the purest forms of infinite play. It allows us to express ourselves freely, without the constraints of rules or expectations. Unfortunately, society often commercializes art, turning it into a finite game. Museums, galleries, and auctions place monetary value on creativity, reducing it to a commodity. But true art isn't about recognition or profit, it's about freedom. Each of us has the capacity to create. Whether it's writing a poem, painting a picture, or simply crafting something with love, we all have the ability to tap into our creative spirit. As James Carse says, "You are the genius of your own life." You don't need external validation to prove your worth. Just by creating something meaningful to you, you're already winning the infinite game. Let go of the past and embrace the present. One of the biggest traps of finite games is the obsession with past achievements. For example, after Einstein won the Nobel Prize, many people advised him to stop working. They feared that future failures could tarnish his reputation. But Einstein didn't care about protecting his legacy. He continued exploring, experimenting, and playing his infinite game. In contrast, finite players often cling to the past, trying to relive their former glories. This creates unnecessary pressure and anxiety. Infinite players, however, understand that the past is just that, the past. They use it as a foundation to create something new, rather than letting it define them. Freedom to choose your game. In life, you always have the freedom to choose your game. You can decide to quit a game that no longer serves you. For instance, you can leave a toxic job, change your career, or even take an entirely new path in life. This freedom is one of the most empowering aspects of being an infinite player. Unlike finite players, who feel trapped by rules and expectations, infinite players understand that they are free to step out of any game. They don't need permission to create, explore, or pursue their passions. You are the genius of your own life. James Carse reminds us that you are the genius of your own life. This means you don't need anyone's approval to be great. You don't have to follow someone else's path to find success or happiness. Genius isn't about extraordinary talent. It's about living authentically, staying true to your values, and creating a life that reflects who you are. For instance, a child who paints with pure joy isn't seeking fame or recognition. They create simply because it makes them happy. This is the essence of infinite play. As adults, we often lose this natural sense of creativity. We become so focused on outcomes, money, status, or approval, that we forget how to simply enjoy the process. But the infinite game invites us to reconnect with that joy. The difference between pushing and being touched. Carse contrasts two concepts: pushing and being touched. Pushing is when you force yourself toward a predetermined goal. It's about controlling outcomes and following a rigid plan. Being touched is about surrendering to the moment. It's about allowing yourself to be inspired, surprised, and immersed in what you're doing. For example, imagine a musician playing their instrument. If they're focused solely on playing every note perfectly, they're pushing. But if they lose themselves in the music, allowing it to flow through them, they're being touched. The difference lies in how you approach life. Are you forcing yourself to achieve? Or are you allowing life to move you? Time, a variable of freedom. In finite games, time is a limited resource. Players feel they must win before time runs out. For example, people often say things like, "I need to accomplish this by age 30. I'm running out of time to achieve my goals." This mindset creates unnecessary pressure and anxiety. In infinite games, however, time becomes a variable of freedom. Infinite players don't rush to achieve milestones. They understand that time is abundant when you focus on living fully in the present. Instead of worrying about running out of time, they make the most of every moment, enjoying the journey rather than racing toward a finish line. The infinite player's perspective. An infinite player approaches life with curiosity, creativity, and openness. For example, instead of seeing work as a means to earn money, they view it as an opportunity to learn, grow, and contribute. Instead of competing for recognition, they focus on creating value for themselves and others. This perspective allows infinite players to enjoy the process, regardless of the outcome. Even when faced with challenges, they see them as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to overcome. What truly matters in life? Carse challenges us to ask, why do we do what we do? For example, are you working to make a difference? Or just to climb the corporate ladder? Are you creating art because you love it? Or because you want to be famous? Are you pursuing a relationship for genuine connection? Or to feel validated? These questions encourage us to examine our motivations and align our actions with our true values. Infinite players live not for external rewards but for the joy of living authentically. A world beyond rules and titles. In finite games, titles and rules define success. For example, people often measure their worth by their job titles, academic degrees, or social status. But in infinite games, these things don't matter. What matters is the freedom to create, explore, and grow. Imagine a world where everyone embraced the infinite mindset. Instead of competing for power, people would collaborate to solve problems. Instead of chasing status, they would focus on making meaningful contributions. Instead of fearing failure, they would see it as a natural part of growth. This is the kind of world infinite players strive to create. The final lesson. Carse ends his book with a profound statement. There is only one infinite game in the world. This game is life itself. Finite games are illusions, constructed by society to give people a sense of structure and purpose. But when you step out of the finite mindset, you realize that life is boundless. You are not confined by rules, titles, or expectations. You are free to create your own path, to play your own game, and to live a life of infinite possibilities. A question for you. After exploring the concepts of finite and infinite games, the question remains: which game are you playing? Are you striving for recognition? Or are you living for the joy of the journey? This question isn't meant to judge but to inspire self-reflection. It's an invitation to step back, examine your life, and make conscious choices about how you want to live. Thank you for joining me in this deep exploration of James Carse's Finite and Infinite Games. I hope this discussion has sparked new insights and inspired you to approach life with a fresh perspective. If you found this video helpful, please share it with others who might benefit from it. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future uploads. Once again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.